He wants us to pay for our security.
Europe unquestionably accepts what the United States says reality is.
Germany is a defeated country, don't forget it. Well, obviously, what he wants to do is to fix the deficit question, because he has to pay. I mean, they have to pay $1 trillion a year in interest. So Trump is trying to fix the issue, but tariffs are not the way to go. And then he's trying to lower the military spending, which is a very good idea because 40% of all the military expenditure the world over is American, and now they don't even have ammunition. That's a scam, I mean, how come they spend the 40% of the world military expenditure, and Ukraine has not ammunition? Russia spends only 1/10 of this money, and they have all the ammunition in the world. So the military industry is a scam. One, two. He wants us to pay for our security. Good. I agree. Probably Japan is afraid of China and he wants us to be protected. And he has to pay for it, nothing against. But now, what does it make Trump believe that if we pay for our security, we are going to share his fears? Why should we consider that Germany needs for its security 45 military bases? Why to be, bristly with missiles? To defend himself from what? Houthis. Why to bomb the Houthis? Why not to curb Israel? If we pay for our security, we will decide where is the goal. Where is the way to, the goal, the final goal of all this expenditure? Trump is convinced that, such as the world it is, it will remain. We pay for this. I mean, we pay for them, for their security, for their idea of security. We pay. And quite frankly, it's not a given, I don't think so. Yes, we'll see how all this develops. And I'm very skeptical, because quite frankly, I don't think that Germany needs 45 military bases to survive.
But this leads me to a question again about Europe. It seems to me that for the last 30, 40 years, maybe 30, 40 years, the Europeans just went along with any kind of framing that came from the United States. If the United States says or just pretends that X is the case, then the Europeans will say like, sure, X is the case. And one of the most outrageous examples about that to me is that this framing of military expenditures, right? The idea that, and I don't know when it started, about 10, 15 years ago, that suddenly your military expenditure was measured in GDP terms. How much of your GDP are you using on defense spending? And the United States kept saying, we are spending 4 or 5% of GDP on defense for NATO, and NATO countries don't do that. They are so unresponsible, but they completely, utterly forget that that is the entire US military spending on the entire globe. That includes the military base in Yokosuka in Japan. And somebody needs to explain to me how the military base in Yokosuka somehow helps NATO defend Europe. There's no connection, but the Europeans go along with it. They're just like, oh yeah, that's right. Yeah, I mean, we're so ashamed and whatnot and so ever. And they come up with these excuses. They do not ever try to question the framing itself. When did that start? I mean, you've been in that field, that Europe unquestionably accepts what the United States says reality is.
I think it all started with the implosion of the USSR.
Hmm.
The USSR imploded, and the United States were desperate to see that NATO might disappear. And that was, a constant of the equation. NATO has to survive. And, they enlarged NATO against the will of and the opinion of the very, very erudite people. And the consequences were devastating. And Europe joined in. I had an interview with Mr. Rahr, which is a well-known German intellectual, and he told me that this is a kind of deflected reflected hatred. They are fed up of being considered the bad guys of the world. And what they are doing is projecting this into another country, and they are projecting this into Russia. So Putin is the new Hitler. We are not Hitlerians anymore. He is the new Hitler. And then, of course, they think that doing this, they can alter the traditional strategy of Germany, which is to be friends with Russia. Remember Bismarck, when he said, when our two countries are together, everything goes well for us and for Europe. When, due to foreign intervention, we are one against each other, it's bad for our two countries and for Europe. And he was absolutely right. Here it is. Now, originally, they wanted a comprehensive agreement on security. And the map they show is very well known. You can have it, you can read it in Not 1 Inch by Mary Sarot. It's there, the Federal Republic of Germany. Minister of Foreign Affairs offer a map. The security went from Britain in France to Vladivostok. The United States, never. NATO. And Germany is a defeated country, don't forget it. Is besieged, is defeated. And they accepted this point of view. Now, the consequences were terrible. Well, absolutely against going to Iraq. That was good. And again, they didn't want Georgia and Ukraine to join NATO. That's good. But then all of a sudden, no, not all of a sudden, but slowly all this changed. And there was a paradigm shift, and they went to Minsk. Minsk accepted by both the president of France and by Angela Merkel. They did this to give Ukraine time to rearm. And this is a paradigm shift because the United Euro was created to prevent the war, and this was, done to encourage war in Ukraine. Had it not been by all these events, today Crimea would be Ukrainian. We would have a very good security system in Europe. And as I say, all this began with this terrible fall of the Soviet Union that created a havoc in the accepted values of the West. Remember, George F. Kennan. If by any chance the USSR were to disappear in the waves of the Atlantic, we would have to find a new enemy similar to it, because any other solution would be unacceptable for the American industry.